My first vinyl, which I'm very proud of, was Sgt. Pepper. And then my first CD was the Lion King soundtrack.
For years, whispers swirled around Paris Jackson's true parentage, rumors too wild for many to believe, yet too persistent to ignore. Now, after years of silence, Paris has broken her silence, confirming what DNA results have finally revealed. The truth is more shocking than anyone imagined. What she discovered not only rewrites her story, it shakes the very foundation of pop culture royalty. The daughter of the king of pop has just dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming. You won't believe it. A quiet murmur that seemed like a harmless curiosity. Beginning with a murmur in the realm of celebrity rumor, everything began to unfold. A soft murmur that appeared to be nothing more than harmless curiosity. Over the course of time, however, that curiosity became more audible, eventually developing into full-blown speculation and, ultimately, intrusive examination. As soon as Michael Jackson presented his children to the general public, everyone's attention was immediately drawn to them. In spite of the fact that I admire you, I am suspicious of you. There was one question that people couldn't quit asking. Should we believe that these children with light complexion and light eyes were in fact the biological offspring of the king of pop? Paris Jackson, the youngest of the three Jackson children, immediately became the focus of attention more than any of the other children. She appeared to be quite dissimilar to the Michael Jackson that fans had become accustomed to over the course of his career, sporting a pale skin, light brown hair, and sparkling blue eyes. Within a short period of time, Paris emerged as the protagonist of an expanding mystery. People on the internet began posting photographs of her from her childhood, analyzing each and every aspect as if they were trying to solve a riddle. They zoomed in on facial features, compared skin tones, and compared the colors of her skin. At the same time as some people were curious about whether or not she resembled Michael before his skin problem and surgery, others were eager to point out that she did not in any way resemble him. Paris Jackson has always been synonymous with the legendary Jackson family, but recent revelations have raised questions about their true origins. Why does she want to cut all ties with the family? And what does this mean for Paris as she navigates her identity and legacy? Let's find out. Paris Jackson's early life. Paris. Michael Catherine Jackson was born on April 3, 1998, in the city of Beverly Hills, in the state of California. Her life was bound to be special, considering that she was the only daughter of the legendary Michael Jackson and Debbie Rowe, and the second child of the couple. After meeting Debbie, a dermatologist nurse, when he was receiving treatment for his skin ailment, vitiligo, Michael, who was already a global superstar at this point, yearned for a family and found a spouse in Debbie. Because Michael had frequently referred to Paris as one of his favorite cities in the world, the city was named after the capital of France, which was a place that carried sentimental meaning for him. Catherine was chosen as her middle name in order to pay tribute to Michael's mother, who played a significant role in the Jackson family. The birth of Paris was met with a mixture of public excitement and intense media scrutiny, which was a reflection of her father's larger-than-life reputation. The advent of Paris was eagerly awaited, and her birth was closely watched by the media. Michael embraced her from the very beginning, and he frequently expressed his profound affection for his children on several occasions. Despite being a single parent and one of the most recognizable individuals in the world, Michael's goal was to provide his children with a nurturing and loving atmosphere. Debbie gave up custody of Paris shortly after her birth, leaving Michael as the sole caregiver for his children. Neverland Ranch, Michael's expensive estate in Los Olivos, California, was where Paris spent her formative years with her. Michael's imagination and his yearning for a childhood that he never had the opportunity to experience for himself were reflected in the ranch, which was named after the fantastical land in Peter Pan. Neverland was a wonderland of enchantment for Paris and her brothers, as it had a zoo, luscious gardens, and attractions from an amusement park. Frequently hosting parties, treasure hunts, and games at the estate, Michael went to considerable measures to ensure that his children had a childhood that was filled with joy and wonder. As a result of Paris and her siblings' experiences at the zoo, Paris developed a deep appreciation for the natural world, which she would continue with her into adulthood. The ranch was more than just a place to live. It was a paradise with a magical atmosphere, where the craziness of the outside world could be concealed. Whispers turned to theories, and theories turned into a chilling trail of clues, subtle signs hidden in plain sight. For years, the truth was hiding beneath the surface, and the world never noticed. Until now. The speculations and clues. In 2009, shortly after Michael Jackson's sudden death, gossip outlet TMZ published a report claiming they had independently confirmed that Michael was not the biological father of his oldest two children, Prince and Paris. The article didn't name sources or provide any proof, but it didn't need to. The damage was done. That single story added fuel to the fire of rumors that had already been growing for years. People started pointing to the children's appearance as evidence, noting the absence of features they expected Michael's biological kids to have. Despite being a deeply personal and sensitive topic, it became open for public discussion. For years, the question lingered. It was the kind of thing many didn't feel comfortable asking out loud, but they still wondered. Could the world's most famous entertainer not be the biological father of his kids? The topic was often treated like a scandal or a secret, rather than a private family matter. But soon, the speculation took a more personal turn, when Debbie Rowe, a woman at the center of it all, finally spoke up. Interview with Debbie Rowe about their marital life. As the public's interest in Michael Jackson's children continued to increase, nothing stoked the flames of public intrigue quite like the explosive interview that Debbie Rowe gave in 2009. She, who was Michael Jackson's ex-wife and the mother of his two oldest children, made admissions that undermined the foundation of a story that was already shaky. These statements were delivered in an open and honest chat with a British tabloid. In 1996, Debbie Rowe, a dermatology nurse who had met Michael Jackson while working in the clinic of his longtime dermatologist Dr. Arnold Klein, had tied the knot with a pop sensation whose name was Michael Jackson. It seemed to be an unconventional yet heartfelt union at the time, especially after Jackson's divorce from Lisa Marie Presley, which was well publicized at the time. The interview that Rowe gave in 2009, on the other hand, fully dispelled that idea. The statement that she made, in which she referred to their marriage as a fraud, caused shockwaves to be sent out across the entire world. The implication was extremely significant. Rowe seems to have validated what had been speculated for a considerable amount of time in internet forums and murmurs, namely that the children Michael was raising, particularly Paris and Prince, might not have been originally his biological offspring. A media tempest that had already been brewing since Michael's murder just a few months ago was amplified by her statements, which cast a long and dark shadow over the family. Considering that Paris Jackson was only 11 years old at the time, the impact was extremely traumatic for her. Instantaneously, she became the focal point of a national and international debate. The press plunged into a frenzy of activity. A number of media outlets, including talk shows, gossip websites, and tabloids, dissected Rowe's words, and scrutinized every aspect of Paris's appearance. Was the color of her eyes even possible? If Michael was her biological father, would the fact that she had pale complexion and straight hair be evidence that she was the result of an unknown sperm donor? During the same interview, Rowe provided additional information regarding the ways in which the arrangement came to be. She stated that she had offered to carry Michael's children because she felt sorry for him and wanted to help him financially. She mentioned that he was lonely and that he had a strong desire to settle down and raise a family. It was a shocking omission that seemed to corroborate the concerns of many individuals that the affair was a transactional arrangement rather than a loving one. As a result of these revelations, the public was presented with an image of the children's histories that was cold and calculating. As a result, many people viewed Michael Jackson as more of a symbolic or adoptive father than a biological father during this time period. The assertion was used by some to put doubt on the authenticity of his family life, while others applauded him for taking on the role of father regardless of whether or not he was genetically competent. However, that was not the end of the uproar. As Rowe's omission became more widely known, more men began to come forward, each of them asserting that they had a piece of the Jackson heritage to claim. The procession of the prospective fathers. Mark Lester, a British actor who is best remembered for his role as Oliver in the classic film Oliver from 1968, was one of the sources that made some of the most spectacular announcements. Even though Lester had been out of the public eye for a considerable amount of time, he reappeared in the media several decades later, not to talk about his profession, but rather to reveal a surprising revelation. In the beginning of a series of interviews, he made the assertion that he might be the biological father of Paris and Prince, who are Jackson's two very oldest children. For a number of years, Lester asserted that he and Jackson had maintained a close friendship that included visits to Jackson's family, trips to the beach, and in-depth chats about personal matters. As Jackson approached Lester with an uncommon request, a sperm donation, around the time that Rowe became pregnant, Lester said that he agreed to help his friend because he wanted to be of assistance to Jackson. As he confidently asserted during an interview, "There is a good chance that I am their father." He offered to submit to DNA testing in order to provide evidence to support his claim. The general population was enthralled for a little while. The headlines screamed, the internet lit up, and whispers turned into a media storm. Was the King of Pop really her biological father? As speculation surged, one chilling question echoed louder than the rest. What if everything we thought we knew was a lie? Headline blared, speculation surged. Claim of King Pop as the biological father. Millions of people were captivated by the concept that a British actor, Lester, may be the father of the children of the King of Pop. This idea was simply plain strange. Nevertheless, the narrative took an unexpected turn. However, not long after he made his first assertions, Lester started walking them back. He indicated that it was possible that he had either exaggerated or misremembered the event. There was a possibility that he was not the donor after all. It could have been someone else, someone from Michael's inner group who was responsible. Possibly, he was under the impression that it was Dr. Arne Klein. Dr. Arne Klein was not unfamiliar with the concept of controversy. He had been one of Michael Jackson's closest confidants for many years, and he was a well-known dermatologist in Beverly Hills. There were rumors going around that Klein may have played a role in the narrative that went beyond his professional responsibilities. Debbie Rowe had worked in his clinic while she was carrying Jackson's children. It appeared that the theory was credible. Jackson was notoriously secretive, and Klein had access to the information, the potential to assist, and the motivation to do so. A response that Klein provided in response to a direct question about whether or not he was the biological father of the children, which was addressed during an interview on Good Morning America in 2009, only served to further complicate the situation. Many people interpreted the phrase as a suggestion that there might be more to the story because it was ambiguous and seemed to be trying to avoid answering the question. There was neither confirmation nor denial from him. After a number of years had passed, in the year 2015, he rekindled the rumors by publishing on social media a snapshot of himself and Prince Jackson side by side, accompanied by a mystery caption. The mere mention of that single word was sufficient to send the internet into a frenzy. On the basis of the physical similarities that existed between Klein and Prince, new allegations were made available. Eye cheekbones, eye shape, and skin tone are all different. It was not only the side-by-sides that increased in number, but also the theories. A narrative that was constant and emphatic was maintained by Michael Jackson himself throughout the entire ordeal. His youngest son, BD, who was known to the public at the time as Blanket, was produced through surrogacy using Jackson's own sperm, he said to journalist Martin Bashir in a controversial documentary that was released in 2003, depicting his life with Michael Jackson. Despite the fact that his statement appeared to draw a line in the sand, many people found that it ended up raising more questions. The reason for the secrecy? Could you please explain the lack of clarity on the donors and surrogates? What inspired such a large number of persons in Jackson's immediate vicinity to make allegations that contradict one another? There was never any doubt in Paris's mind that Jackson and the rumors were more than simply gossip. They were able to penetrate to the very essence of her being. She was a living riddle that needed to be solved, and every new headline, every speculative story, and every pixelated photo comparison served as a reminder that a significant portion of the world did not regard her as her own unique individual. A dissection, an analysis, and a reduction to genetics were performed on her. A number of those who were critical of her remarked that she had a remarkable similarity to the daughters of Mark Lester. As was the case with Prince Jackson, he was constantly under inspection. His characteristics, including his nose, jawline, and smile, were constantly compared to those of Dr. Klein, Jackson himself, and other individuals who were said to have donated the organs. Consequently, the list of potential fathers continued to grow at the same time that Paris was attempting to establish her own voice within the confusion. In spite of this, there are others who believe that physical appearances are the most convincing proof, despite the fact that they are defective. Paris's appearance continued to be the subject of unrelenting attention from the general public. Even though Lisa Marie Presley is not Paris's actual mother, fans have begun to compare her to Lisa Marie Presley, Michael Presley's first wife. This is a particularly weird turn of events. Those were hardly the only analogies that were made. Theory gained traction, leading to an already gained story, not because of evidence. It was noticed that there were similarities between Paris and Riley Keough, who is the daughter of Lisa Keough, Lisa Presley, an actress. It was not the facts that contributed to the theory's popularity. Rather, it was the fact that it provided an additional layer of mystery to a story that was already complicated. Then came the claims that were even more peculiar. One of the rumors that circulated was that the actor Macaulay Culkin, who had starred in Home Alone as a child and was Paris's godfather, might be her biological father in some way. This hypothesis gained traction as a result of his long-standing connection with Michael Jackson, as well as his well-known closeness to the children, notably Paris. However, rather than being founded on fact, it was based on proximity and imagination, just like the majority of the outlandish assumptions. In spite of this, It did not appear to be a factor for an audience that was accustomed to reading tabloid headlines and was eager for controversy. It is a particularly harsh and persistent statement that has been echoed throughout internet forums and comment sections that she does not appear to be black enough to be Michael's child. This happens in the midst of all this mayhem. It was an assertion that was wounded, not just because of its lack of knowledge, but also because of the frequency with which it was repeated, frequently by individuals who had a limited understanding of genetics. However, scientists, geneticists, and those who favor Paris were eager to push back against the proposal. It was explained by specialists that the inheritance of physical characteristics is not a straightforward equation, particularly in offspring of mixed racial backgrounds. There is no universal look for a biracial person, one geneticist stated. A child of a black and white parent can inherit any combination of features. Some may appear lighter-skinned with Eurocentric traits, while others may exhibit more traditionally black features. All of this is dependent on the particular genetic markers that are passed down and the manner in which they are manifested. There is no consideration for your presumptions in DNA. Yet despite science and heartfelt admissions, the speculation didn't stop. So when Paris stepped into her latest role, the world once again turned its curious eyes toward her. The swarm effect, which describes how a single role spread a rumor. In 2023, Paris Jackson appeared in the Amazon Prime series Swarm. But it wasn't her acting that went viral. It was one line from her character that caught everyone off guard. In the episode, the character Haley nonchalantly reveals, "My dad is half black. That's why my stage name is Halsey." At first, it seemed like just a quirky throwaway line. But for many viewers, the comment hits strangely close to home, because in real life, Paris Jackson is the daughter of Michael Jackson, a black man. And yet, Paris has a white passing appearance, which has fueled years of public speculation that Michael may not be her biological father. So when her character mentioned having a half-black father, people couldn't help but connect it to the rumors about Paris herself. The line felt oddly self-referential, almost like an inside joke, or a subtle acknowledgement of the controversy that surrounded her for years. People were quick to react. Some called it ironic. Others saw it as a clever nod to her real life. The Jackson family dynasty. Growing up as the daughter of the world's greatest renowned modern musician hasn't been easy for Paris Jackson. But she recently came clean with the findings of a DNA test proving that Michael is not her biological father. But we need to know why she took the test initially, so we can grasp the seriousness of the problem. Now we're transported back in time to Michael's youth, a few decades ago. You are well aware that the Jackson name is instantly associated with great music, incredible skill, and an incredible legacy that has touched many lives. They rose from modest origins to become an international icon of the entertainment industry's success story. Michael Jackson, the pop superstar whose immeasurable fame cemented the Jackson family's position as cultural icons, was at the epicenter of it all. The Jackson family's extraordinary trip began in Gary, Indiana, a modest industrial town from which they originated. The 9th generation of the Jackson family was born to Patriarch Joe and Matriarch Catherine. An aspirational ex-steel mill worker named Joe Jackson discovered his children had extraordinary musical abilities. The Jackson Five, Michael, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon, performed under his tight supervision. In the late 60s, the Jackson Five made a meteoric rise to fame because of their irresistible fusion of pop, soul, and R&B. Their first single, I Want You Back, went viral, and subsequent singles such as ABC, I'll Be There, and The Love You Save all reached #1. Through their achievements, the Jackson name became synonymous with quality music, opening doors for solo careers and cementing the Jacksons' impact on subsequent generations of performers. Michael Jackson stood out as the most remarkable sibling among the Jackson siblings. Michael Jackson's charisma and singing skills wowed audiences even when he was a young singer with the Jackson 5. But he achieved unequaled fame with his solo career. Off the Wall, released in 1979, marked the beginning of his solo career. Rock With You and Don't Stop Till You Get Enough were the songs that catapulted him to superstardom on a worldwide scale. The next year, 1982, saw the release of Thriller, the best-selling record of all time and a worldwide phenomenon. Michael transformed the music video into an art form with his revolutionary work for songs like Thriller, Billie Jean, and Beat It. With each subsequent album, Michael proved once again that he could innovate without straying too far from his original sound. His performances, which were characterized by his trademark moonwalk and unmatched charisma, went down in history. The media's fixation, his own self-doubt, and contentious accusations were just a few of the obstacles he had to overcome throughout his life, despite his achievements. Interactions among families, a tenuous tie. The Jackson family went through the ups and downs of popularity and family ties behind the scenes of their public triumph. When it came to Michael and his siblings, there was love and friction. Although they had a strong bond due to their shared history and cooperation, they frequently clashed due to jealousy, rivalry, and Michael's extraordinary fame. Everyone respected and feared Joe Jackson, the ambitious and dictatorial head of the family. Several of his children, Michael included, have discussed the mental and physical strains they endured as a result of his relentless pursuit of perfection. As a counterpoint to the chaos, Catherine brought stability to the family via her unwavering faith and compassion. The family overcame these obstacles by sticking together through thick and thin. They stuck together as the Jacksons, a distinct musical dynasty, and helped each other out when circumstances got tough. A fresh wave of Jacksons rose to the occasion, continuing the family's storied history. The public's attention shifted to Michael's 3 children following his premature death in 2009: Prince, Paris, and Blanket, now known as Biggie. Relationship with the Jackson family. Paris spent her childhood in relative seclusion, away from the spotlight of her father's popularity. Michael fostered in her traits of compassion, humility, and creativity, despite the fact that she was surrounded by rich surroundings. He would frequently devote his time to teaching Paris and her siblings about music and pushing them to pursue their skills whenever he had the opportunity. In subsequent interviews, Paris described her father as the most kind and kind-hearted person she had ever known, and she described him as her role model. Paris had a close relationship with her father. Why did she have doubts about the fact that he was her father? We shall come to that in a short while. Michael's efforts to protect Paris and her siblings from the unrelenting scrutiny of the media were unsuccessful. The public's infatuation with Michael's life made it impossible for him to maintain complete privacy. Whenever Michael took his children out in public, he would frequently obscure their faces with veils or masks in order to preserve a certain degree of secrecy. Michael was adamant in his conviction that it was essential to safeguard them, despite the fact that this strange technique created both surprise and criticism. It was often Paris's father who accompanied her on her first public engagements. There was a continuous pursuit by the paparazzi to catch a peek of the Jackson children, despite the fact that she was still a little toddler. Michael was acutely aware of the difficulties that his popularity brought into their lives, and he took great care to control these visits. His infamous balcony episode in Berlin, in which he momentarily hung Paris's younger brother, Blanket, over the edge of a hotel balcony is now considered to be one of the most memorable incidents in his life. In spite of the fact that Paris was not directly involved in this episode, it served to illustrate the tremendous scrutiny that the family was subjected to from the public and the media. As a young child, Paris was able to gain a look into the nature of celebrity through these appearances, which were both bizarre and formative for her. The efforts of Michael's father ensured that his children maintained as much normalcy as possible despite the strange circumstances they were living through. Over time, Michael's children became more recognizable. Paris's understanding of her singular place in the world was strengthened by these early public events, despite the fact that they were at times overpowering. The King of Pop's tragic death. Something terrible happened to the Jackson family on June 25, 2009, and it was a catastrophe. On account of his severe intoxication, Michael tragically passed away. The death of Paris's cherished father left her in utter disbelief. At the time, Paris was just 11 years old. She and her siblings were thrown into the spotlight all around the world as a result of Michael's passing, which marked a turning point in your life. After the death of Michael, Catherine, the matriarch of the family, took on the role of Paris's legal guardian along with her brothers. They relocated to the Jackson family estate in Calabasas, California, where they were surrounded by their siblings and other members of their extended family. The switch from Neverland to a more conventional setting was a significant adjustment for the children, despite the fact that Catherine was a source of love and stability for them. Immediately following the passing of her father, Paris was confronted with a range of significant emotional issues. When she was younger, she once characterized the feeling as being similar to losing not only a parent, but also the one and only person who fully understood her. At the public memorial service for Michael, Paris demonstrated a remarkable amount of strength, despite the fact that she was filled with grief. She was dressed in black and appeared to be experiencing a lot of emotion as she joyfully addressed the crowd while standing in front of the microphone. For as long as I can remember, my father has been the most wonderful father a child could ever hope to have. Some wondered if the inclusion of the statement was an attempt to start a discussion, while others thought it was more of an awkward coincidence. Whatever the case may be, the incident sparked a long-running argument, and when new information emerged, the speculation intensified. Thrilling, right? Well, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe and turn on post notification to be the first to know when the next video is up. Click on the next video popping on the screen now.